Are we live? You're live, right? Alicia?
Yes, yes.
Just a moment. So, hello everybody. Good evening. Very good evening. I'm Rita Singhal. I welcome you all on behalf of Indore Schools. And today, Indore School is a platform, as you all know, it connects parents, teachers of Indore. And in our constant endeavors to bring people from different walks of life in the field of education. And this in this series, today we have Miss Alicia with us. Miss Alicia is from Mumbai. She has got masters in uh, child psychology and special education. She has experience with children with LD, autism spectrum disorders, low learning, and she runs a clinic in Bandra West and has keen interest in early detection and intervention of children with development disabilities. So, welcome, Alicia. Welcome
Thank
to
you.
Indore School.
Thank you so much.
Tell us something about yourself, Alicia.
Okay, so hello everybody. This is Alisha Lalji here, and I'm from Mumbai, as Rita has already told you. And I've been practicing here into private practice for a couple of years now, and I'm extremely happy to be a part of this particular talk today at Indore Schools. Our topic today is learning disability, and it is an extremely pertinent topic. So, looking forward to answering all the questions that you have to ask. Thank you, Rita.
Great, great. I can see some people joining us. Let's wait for just another 2 minutes so that more people can join us. Okay. I think shall we begin?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, let's start with a case study. Tina is 10 years old, a bright child, and she's very good in all other things, but she has trouble in reading and writing, and she just can't read like others in her class. So I think many parents can relate to such case studies, and I think Alicia, this is what brings to our topic. What is learning disability?
Learning disability is an umbrella for many other disabilities which include difficulties in reading, difficulties in writing, and mathematics. This particular name was spoken about first by Samuel Kirk way back in the year 1963. And individuals having difficulties with reading, writing, mathematics, spellings, all these come under the umbrella of having a learning disability.
Okay. So that brings up to the types of disability. You already talked about it, right?
No, I would like to elaborate further on the same. Now, there are many types of learning disabilities, but I would like to speak about four which are of primary importance. So, the first one is dyslexia. Dyslexia is a reading problem, a difficulty with reading. So when somebody is reading, basically there is no fluency. There are a lot of mistakes, a lot of pauses. That is what dyslexia is all about. The second one is dyscalculia. Now, the word dyscalculia refers to individuals having difficulties in doing mathematical abilities. So, when you're solving a sum or you're doing word problems, you don't know where to add, subtract, multiply, or divide, or even when you're trying to write, there are mistakes with regard to math. The next one is dysgraphia. Dysgraphia is difficulties with regard to spellings. Now, these spelling errors could either be while writing in English or Hindi or Marathi or any language that you write in. So when there are difficulties, probably when I'm writing, there are spelling issues, there are reversals, there are omissions of letters or words. So that would be the second one, which would be dysgraphia. And the last one, which I would be speaking about today, is dyspraxia. Dyspraxia is basically a difficulty in motor coordination. So when I say motor coordination, I mean both gross motor and fine motor. Gross motor, as we're aware, is related to our activities of skipping, hopping, jumping, standing, sitting. And fine motor would very often involve the usage of our hand, holding a pencil, holding on to something. It would be a smaller grip, holding on to a crayon or a piece of chalk. So that is what is fine motor skills. So these particular terminologies, LD and dyslexia, are not very new. The term dyslexia was in fact first coined way back 130 years ago by Mr. Rudolf Berlin, who happened to be an ophthalmologist at Germany. So these are very old concepts, but each one of us, according to where we stay, has got awareness later on. But these terminologies are pretty old, way back.
Okay. I think we got our share of knowing dyslexia was Tare Jami Pe, the movie, which talked about it in certain way. Uh, you talked about three different types of learning disability. Which do you think is most common among children?
See,
And how many kids are affected? Sorry, how many kids are affected by
if
it?
you ask me about LD, according to the Indian statistics, every one child in five has some kind of learning disability traits. We would call it learning disability if probably they had dyslexia, dyscalculia, and dysgraphia. But it is also seen that a person may have just any one of them and not a combination of two or more of these. So we can be very sure only after a child has crossed age 5. So dyslexia or dysgraphia or learning disabilities in general can be identifiable with 92% accuracy post age 5.
What other problems can be seen with LD?
In LD, very often parents do not realize that there is a learning issue at first. What they see is that the child is lazy, or they
Yeah,
feel that the
absolutely.
child does not follow instructions, या फिर बच्चा जल्दी भूल जाता है या उसे याद नहीं रहता. These are very common things that parents talk about. They also feel that the child loses a lot of things in school,
Right.
or this particular child may be very good at probably a sport or extracurricular activities, or may have their own YouTube channel, or may be very good at speech or speaking publicly in front of a big audience. But the main issue here with regard to learning disability is that the child has difficulty in academics. They may not be any other difficulties.
Right. Right. How should one get the child assessed? कैसे हम as a parent कैसे हम assess करवा सकते हैं अपने बच्चे को कि they have the problem with learning disability? They have
So
the
the
learning disability.
Okay. See, our rules for assessment change state-wise. So they're very different. But generally, the common rules that we follow is you first go to the principal where your child is studying, ask the principal to give you a letter stating that you would want to get an assessment done. Take the letter and go to any government hospital in your particular state. So when you go to the government hospital that obviously has like a psychiatry ward or an LD clinic there, they have a particular protocol that they follow with regard to assessment and testing. So they'll have a series of tests or test batteries that follow. You'll also have a psychiatric evaluation to see if everything is fine. There will also be an ophthalmologist evaluation or an ENT evaluation to see that the child's hearing is fine or the child's eyesight is fine. All these together, along with the test that the child is going to be writing and reading out, would give you a report. This report would give you an IQ score, and on the basis of this IQ score, you would be availing certain exemptions.
Okay, that's great. But my question to you, Alicia, is as a parent, how would I know? I mean, why should I go up to a principal and get it assessed? Firstly, there should be some symptoms or some signs which tells me that my child may have a possibility of LD. How do I know that?
Right. So if your child is probably 6 or 7 years old and is still reversing certain letters, so B and D is still reversed, cannot remember basic or cannot write neatly at all. The child is either writing a lot of words on a given sentence, or there is very inappropriate spacing. The child cannot read basic 3 and 4 letter sentences or is fumbling to read. These would be like the basic, prerequisites
Checklist.
for a child of age 6 and 7. So if you feel that that is not appropriate, these are red flags.
Hmm.
Note down these red flags. See that, is the child always reversing a B and a D, or getting confused between an I, L, and J? If this happens repeatedly for a period of 6 months, then it's time that you seek help.
Okay, okay, great. I think parents will actually get a lot of benefit out of these checklists, which you just said. I can see some people have joined us. Please, if you have any questions, leave your comments, leave your questions in the comment box. We can take those questions later during the session or end of the session. Okay, Alicia, does it really, I mean, you talked about LD and you talked about the academic performance in school, so far to say, does it limit future growth or the career assessment prospects of my child?
Okay, now, like I said, LD is something which affects somebody's academics. There are a lot of careers which do not involve a person to hold a pen or a pencil for 6 months or 1 year at a stretch. LD is also something which many influential people have spoken about. Like, you have Einstein who's spoken about the fact of being dyslexic. And now the stigma attached has reduced over time. LD would be is something which is a lifelong condition. So if you can keep revising spellings, or uh, you know learning new words from the dictionary, it's really going to help. But it's not going to limit your progress later on in life, because there are going to be a lot of careers which you'll probably excel at, which another person may not excel at. But at the same time, if you choose a profession like teaching, for example, wherein you're compelled to write and you have a lot of spelling errors, so profession of that sort may not work for you. But you can definitely choose a profession which demands you to write a little less. You can choose anything related to architecture, or or animation, or designing, or something that does not involve you to write. Also, it's not necessary that everyone having learning disability has all the three or four types of disabilities. So if I have
Right.
dyscalculia and I'm really bad at math, I would not want to choose a career that would make me do maths. If I have dyslexia, I would prefer not choosing a career wherein I have to read a lot, or there's a lot of proofreading and editing that I have to do. So you need to be a little
Right.
smart when it comes to choosing your career, but you're definitely going to have a lot of scope, and it doesn't mean that it's going to limit your future perspectives from any angle. You just
Okay.
need to find the right option for yourself.
Okay. So that's great news that academic performance or you having LD doesn't limit your future growth prospect and you have a lot of career options to choose from. Now
Hmm.
we talked about LD. Alicia, let's talk about the remedial education. What is the difference between a special educator and a remedial educator?
Okay. As the term special education suggests, a special educator is moreover for individuals with special needs. So a special educator would help a child with, teaching him or her how to brush, wash, wear your shoes, wear your socks, comb your hair, and basics of writing and academics. At the same time, a remedial educator would work with a child who's probably in a mainstream school and has difficulties with regard to reading, writing, and math.
Okay.
So the degree or the course of education is the same, but there are two different terminologies depending on the child that you're catering to.
Okay. So let's talk more about remedial educators. Can you
Okay.
throw some more light on remedial educators?
Okay. So according to the laws of the government, it is compulsory to have a remedial educator in every school. The
Right.
reason being that learning disability or dyslexia and dysgraphia are so common. So we need an educator or a resource room set up in every school. The job of the educator here would be basically to first shortlist which kids have a difficulty. So after that, you have a different program structured for them. It can be called as an IEP or an individualized education plan. So the job of a remedial educator is to see how much the child knows and how much he or she is supposed to know according to their chronological age and the school board that they're following. So the job of the educator here is to bridge the gap between what the child knows and what he is supposed to know.
Okay. And how long it must continue, this kind of education?
See, any therapy we first need to give it 3 to 4 months, and that's when you start seeing results. That would be at least twice a week. That is what we suggest for any therapy, and preferably a one-on-one therapy would show you a lot better progress or better results in comparison to a group therapy. So you start off for 3 to 4 months. It's also very important for the parents to coordinate with the remedial educator to see what she is doing and how she is doing it, so you can have a follow up or a practice with the child. Also, remedial educators may use very innovative new techniques to teach. So it's very important for the parents to understand this particular technique and then be able to guide the child later to follow the same method. So it's important to be in tandem with the educator. So you're following the same protocol and then the child picks up faster rather than confusing the child. So 3 to 4 months you start off. Sometimes it may even take like a year or two or even more than that, depending on the gap that needs to be bridged ultimately.
Okay. So it also parents play a very key role in imparting
Right.
the education.
Key role.
How's the shadow teacher roles comes in? What is shadow teacher? We all talk about shadow teacher nowadays.
Okay. So as the name suggests, shadow teaching. So the teacher who acts as a shadow is called a shadow teacher. So some schools provide shadow teachers. Some schools ask the parents to involve a shadow teacher as a part of the school. Now, the shadow teacher is somebody who sits near or behind the child and acts like a shadow. So if the teacher is explaining something that the child doesn't understand, she would probably simplify it a little. Also make sure that the child is understanding what the teacher is saying, provide a little guidance in terms of making sure that the child's books are complete. If the child is a little on the restless end or is a little hyper, the shadow teacher will also make sure that the child is seated in one place and doesn't disturb the other friends sitting next to him. So that would be the role of the shadow teacher in school, taking care of the child with regard to his or her education.
Okay. Okay. Okay, Alicia, I think I omitted an important part earlier. As you talked about that child may get disturbed in between, a shadow teacher tries and correct the child and helps the child. What other problems may be seen with LD? I think we have not talked about it. What other things, behavioral aspects, which can be seen with LD?
Okay, with LD, you may also see any disability, they may also have other disabilities attached to it. Okay, so in LD, you may also see ADD, which is attention deficit disorder, wherein the child has difficulties paying attention to what the teacher is saying. You may also see attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which is also called ADHD. There may also be problems with regard to visual processing. So that's like a visual processing disorder or an auditory processing disorder. Some may even have speech disorders. So it is not necessary that LD would always stand alone as a disorder. There may also be other facets to it, but it may not also be a compulsion.
Okay, so we may face other problems with LD. What is the difference between LD and intellectual impairment?
Uh, so I'm sure people are aware about IQ, which is the intellectual quotient. It is believed that the normal human IQ is 100, which would be 5 less or 5 more. That's the range of 95 to 105. Individuals with LD may have an average IQ or an above average IQ. At the same time,
Right.
individuals with intellectual disability would have an IQ which is lower than 80. And again, there would be levels of severity which would range between mild, moderate, severe, and profound.
Okay.
Also, individuals with LD would benefit from mainstream schooling or an inclusive setup. Individuals with special needs would probably require a different curriculum approach.
Okay. What are the parameters? I mean, there are LD, then there are slow learners, and there are underachievers. How do we demarcate all these three areas?
When it comes to LD, like I've spoken about the IQ being a problem. Now, slow learners are individuals generally whose IQ is not at 100, not at 90, would be below that. And underachievers are basically, it is a term which is not used in Indian context that much. So we generally use the term slow learners, but it is not a very preferably used term. because it means that you're marginalizing a certain sect of the population by calling them slow. It's just that when we avail for concessions, they differ. If the child has a particular IQ, wherein we can call the child as saying that the child has learning disability, and when the child is a slow learner, the IQ would be different. So the exemptions that you get would be different.
So do we get different exemptions in the case of LD or in the case of slow learner?
Yes. So
Yeah.
LD again and slow learners again, you have a number of concessions which would again differ state-wise, except for the ICSE board or the CBSE board, which has like a very uniform pattern that they follow. So there would be a list of concessions that you could avail.
It was normally reported, I think 6-7 months before this COVID thing happened. The parents are approaching the government hospitals to getting the certificate issued that their child is they have the learning disability problem and they want the certificate. When there is no such case of LD, but they wanted their child to perform, they wanted to make them have good marks, so they were approaching all the hospitals. Is it true?
See, there will be number of cases in number of states, but at the end of it, you're going to be assessed by professionals who know their job. So you
Right.
aren't going to get any concessions or any certification which you do not require. You're going to definitely get it if you require one, or you are a genuine candidate for the same, not otherwise.
Okay. Great. What is the role of multidisciplinary team in LD management?
Okay, a multidisciplinary team basically consists of a number of professionals that work together to help a child with certain disabilities. So, a multidisciplinary team would involve a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a counselor, probably the school principal, the other therapist, which would be either the physiotherapist, the occupational therapist, or the speech therapist, the special educator, remedial educator, all working together in tandem to make sure that the child is doing well. So they have like a coordination that they maintain. Now it is not necessary that every child goes for 10 therapies or is involved with 10 different therapists for consultation. The child may be going to even 2 3 other therapies. So it is important that these therapists communicate with one another to see what they are doing, to see the results that the child is achieving over time. So this is the role of the multidisciplinary team.
Okay. Who are the most important factors in this team, Naveen? I obviously, as a parent, I can't go to each one of them, and it's very child specific. But still,
The role of each one of them is as important depending on the disability of the child. For example, if the child is having issues with walking, the child would first need to consult a physiotherapist. If there are issues with regard to gross motor, fine motor, or perceptual skills, the child would first need to probably see an occupational therapist. If the person is having seizures, the child would first need medical help. So each one of them and their role is as important. It only depends on the needs of the child and what is the therapy that the child needs to seek first.
okay, so well said. I think it is basically the need of the child, which is the center topic.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
yeah. Alicia, there's this National Institute of Open School in NIOS. How does it come in picture in the case of learning disability?
Okay. So the NIOS, which used to be called the NOS, the NIOS is an academic board for individuals finding it difficult to maintain pace with the present curriculum that they are following. So if you need details, I will be brief and give you a few details, but you can also visit the nios.ac.in website for a lot of details. So to do your 10th standard, the child needs to have completed 14 years of age. You can choose any 5 subjects that the child likes. These 5 subjects include one compulsory language, and this can be cleared anytime in a period of 5 years. So the child can also give like one exam in October, one in March, or two in October, two in March. In case the child decides to give all 5 together and doesn't clear one, there is an option to have on demand exams wherein you request the university that I need a result in like 2 months. So instead of waiting for the next 6 months to conduct the next exam, I would like an exam on demand, and the same gets fulfilled. You give the exam and you get your results very fast. The advantage here is that you get to choose your subjects, and it's not necessary that there are non-academic subjects. The 10th standard curriculum has economics, English,
Oh, that's
business studies, even psychology for that matter. So if there's somebody who wants to do an NIOS 10th and then resume mainstream college or mainstream schooling in the 11th, it's highly possible because you get admission. It's just like any other board. We have a number of boards: IG, IB, ICSE, CBSE, SSC. The NIOS is just another board like that, but it's a board for the moving population. So you do your 10th. In case you do not clear your 11th and you still need to do your 12th, as long as you have a 10th standard mark sheet, you can do your 12th as well.
okay. You can skip your 11th and you can straight away go and do your 12th.
No, in case you haven't been able to do it, or in case you want to divide your subjects like two a year, after your 10th, you
Okay.
start appearing for your 12th.
Oh, that's so good.
So you don't
Okay.
miss out on years, basically.
Oh, that's I think that's a good board. I mean, for a lot of people, you just I think said it right that people on the go can even consider this board. This is
Right.
just for them, and obviously with LD, it's a blessing to have such board in India.
And also, it's available in a number of languages. So
Mm,
even for
mm.
people who are, not well versed with English, there's always an opportunity. And there is age no bar. So unless once you're above 14 years of age, you can take admission and you can study, even if once there are people, who've probably done their 10th and not been able to study further in life because they've had to work. Even at 40 or 50, they can get back and resume education and do their 12th. So it's not necessary that it's only for individuals with learning disabilities. It's just for anybody who wants to pursue their education again.
Wonderful. This is a I think great piece of information for all us parents. I think that comes to an end of session. Alicia, one question which is like out of context, with not going with LD, but I just want to ask you now this COVID thing around and this pandemic is here. What do you think? I mean, now we are coming to individualized kind of education where I learn at my own pace, one on one, not no online thing. I learn what I need to learn and how I need to learn and the pace I decide. So this is the kind of education we look at going forward, and this will benefit all the communities, all the categories of people in India.
I don't think it's completely one-on-one education. A lot of schools have their own norms. There is another very important board which is called the Pratham board, which is for individuals with special needs. The Pratham board has set their own norms, which are really beautiful. And I was going through it the other day. So they give you a paper, they give you the exact time marking. There is a camera that's going to look at you. And there is an option to either say your answer by an audio or write it down, show it to the camera, and they click a photograph of it, and your answer gets recorded. So they first give you notes and they have an examination like this wherein you don't need to have good, dexterity to type. Even if you can't type, you write it down. If you can't write it down, you just say it like an audio and you get scored on the basis of the same. So I think every university or school has begun to set up their own norms with regard to education, schooling, and also examinations. So it's a very different thing that differs from board to universities and schools and states
So
as well.
this Pratham board is state board. Is it a state board? Which state has this board?
It's very much, it follows in Maharashtra and other parts of India as well, Pratham board.
Okay.
It's also another board. Pratham is actually like a pre-NIOS board.
Okay.
So they also have like levels A, B, and C before somebody can enroll for 10th standard NIOS.
Okay. Great. So, Alicia, anything you want to add further to this whole topic, which is a very important topic for parents today?
I just want to tell the parents who are watching me here that, don't get very bogged down by the situation only because your child probably makes a few spelling mistakes. It's not necessary to label them unless and until you feel that the child cannot cope up with the pace and you really need to go ahead with an assessment. It's okay for them to be different. It's okay for them to not like reading and instead do something else. You need to utilize their potentials to the fullest. So just let them be, push them a little bit because basic academics and education is a must, but you need not get very stressed by the situation.
So that's the golden words. Let them be. Let the child be. That comes to an end of the section. Do we have any questions here? Can we take it up? I just have a look at it. I think people can put in their questions once they go through the session later. I don't seem to see any questions here. So let's come to just conclude this session and with a beautiful thought, let the child be. Thank you so much, Alicia, this for a
Thank
wonderful
you very
session
much
and
for
so much.
having me here.
So I look forward to have another session with you on ADHD or autism spectrum disorder, because there are a lot of queries of parents who want to know. They are pretty stressed out on certain issues, certain disabilities associated with child, and we look forward to have another session with you.
Sure.
Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much. Thanks a
In
lot.
our
Thank you.
schools, say yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.